haven't said much about Mother. Talked quite a bit about Father and the other parts of the family. It doesn't because she wasn't a wonderful woman. After Father died, she had the 6 there for some time, and then 2 of us, 2 of the girls got married and 1 boy, and there was just the 3 left to home. And she finally sold the farm to my older brother Cyrus, and she bought a little place in town. And she and my 2 sisters, Gwenna and Lucia and Nelson, and her moved into town. It wasn't too long after they moved to town till Gwenna and Lucia both were married, and that left Mother and Nelson alone. But Nelson was really good to Mother. She depended on him for everything, and he was always willing to try to make her happy and do whatever she wanted him to do. After she'd been there in town for alone for a while, she started feeling kind of miserable and wasn't too well, and we often had to go over and help her out with the washing and things like that. But I was always glad to help her because, I don't know, to me, there was nothing on earth that was quite as enjoyable as doing things for Mother, because she always appreciated them so. It wasn't too long after she started feeling bad that we got the doctor, and he said that she had cancer and that she'd have to have an operation. So we went ahead and made arrangements to have her have the operation, but they wanted to make some more test examinations before they operated, and when they did, they decided that it was incurable and it wouldn't be any use to operate. It wouldn't help her at all. When we found this out, she asked us if we wouldn't come over and stay at her place. I had 5 children at the time, and Clyde was driving a milk truck for the cheese factory that was there in Oakley at the time. But we took our 5 children and moved over into Mother's house, and her and Nelson lived in the front part of the house, and we lived in the back part. Mother wasn't bedfast. She was real miserable, but she'd often say to me, come and sit down a while and let's just visit. So I'd go into her part of the house and sit for just a few minutes, talk to her, because I felt like I had to keep up with the work, because I didn't know what she'd be bedfast for a long time, and then it'd be pretty hard to keep up with my work. But I'd stay for a few minutes, and then I'd get up and leave. And then she wasn't sick so very long. We were only there about 6 weeks, so finally she got real bad and had to go to bed. But up until that time, she would just sit in her chair and then sometimes lie on the couch in the living room. But she finally got to where she was right down, but it didn't last long till she was gone. And I never regretted 1 minute for the things that I did for Mother. The only thing that bothers me or I've ever regretted is that I didn't spend more time with her, because I could have let some of the work go that I thought I had to keep up and spent more time with her when she didn't want to be alone. It was, when I look back, it was a sad part of my life, but yet it was a happy part of my life, because Mother appreciated it, and I really enjoyed helping her out when I could. Then we stayed there till she died in the winter, and then we stayed there till spring with Nelson, and then we moved back out to the farm. And we never would know what time of day or when that Nelson would drop in. Maybe late at night he'd come walking. He'd walk out there and come out and spend the night with us and visit with the kids. The kids all liked him. He used to tease them like the dickens, but when they'd start to cry or get a little mad, then he'd pick them up and love them. And I think there wasn't one of them but what just worshipped him as an uncle, because he did pay so much attention to them. Then he finally moved to Burley. When we didn't see too much of him then. Once in a while he'd come up. But when we moved to Ogden during the war, one night he and his wife stopped into our place. He got married while he was there in Burley, and he was on his way to Salt Lake. He figured there was something wrong with his heart, but the doctors didn't know in Burley just what it was, and told him he better go to Salt Lake, see what was the matter. And so they stayed overnight. The next morning when they started to town on Bemberger, his wife went into the restroom, and when she came back out, he was sitting there with his head kind of leaned against the window, and he passed away. So he was the youngest in the family, and yet he was the first one of the children to go.